Imagine you're sitting at a table, and it's a table in front of you. It's a beautiful wooden table, and it's quite far down the end, and there's someone at the end of it, and you're looking and you're going, you look vaguely familiar. It's you, but it's you 10 years ago, not you now. You now is different. You've learned, you've overcome some obstacles, you've changed, you've decided to let some things go, you've carried some things with you. So me at the end of that table 10 years ago had literally just found out after a 17-year marriage she was getting divorced. Kind of sudden. And at that me that I look at down the end of that table, I'm kind of sad and I'm grieving, heartbroken. It's hard for me to recognize that me. But that me is still me. But is it? So I'm an ethicist, I'm an anthropologist, which means I study the changing landscape of technology and culture, mainly in Ireland, but also more globally now these days. And what I look at is how we're changing with the technology, some of the unintended consequences. There has been no technology that has ever been brought into our existence in society that we have dealt with in the way that it was entirely intended. As humans, we bend it, we shape it, and we shape ourselves. So if we look at our younger generation at the moment, in one generation, you have teenagers, they have a tiny bent little finger on the hand they hold the phone. One generation. We have tech neck. It's that way that we kind of stoop when we're sitting looking at a console. And our brains are changing. We are outsourcing our memories. What does that mean for us? And how will it manage and navigate the me 10 years ago to the me now? So I'm spending a lot of my time thinking about how we design society with technology so it helps us flourish instead of it changes us in a more negative way. Because it's true, both of those versions of me are real, except one is in the past and one is standing here. That me 10 years ago, at the end of that table, wouldn't recognize this me. She would have no idea of the journeys and the adventures that I was about to take. They didn't happen immediately, a couple of years of good therapy and perhaps too much red wine. But eventually, she started to emerge, and she started to find herself. And as my therapist said, do you know what? It could just have been a dark gift. So, as we're moving forward into this version of us with technology, what does it mean for us? So I'm going to tell you a couple of stories. So I'm an anthropologist, I'm a storyteller. And one of these stories is from the beautifully named Georges Louis Borges. It's just beautiful to say. In 1944, he wrote a short story called Foon the Memorious. And Foon was a guy from Uruguay, and he had this big horse accident, and he came off his horse with a huge tumble, and he was out cold. When Foon came around, he remembered everything. Every leaf on the tree, every pebble on the ground, every shard of light, everything everyone said, forevermore. Now, with this gift of extended memory, Foon thought, here's my superpower for the first couple of weeks. Until he realized this is not a superpower, this is torture. I can never forget anything. My brain is overloaded with more and more and more for infinity. Do you see where I'm going with this? Let's cut to another story. 60 years later, there was a beautiful film made called Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. And in it, Jim Carrey, the character that he played, was deeply, deeply heartbroken from the love of his life and the end of that relationship. He decided he couldn't bear the pain anymore. He looked back at himself 10 years down that table and he said, I can do it no more. I want them gone. And in the film, he has the option through technology to erase the bad memories. What he doesn't realize is the unintended consequences that erased the good ones too. She was gone, completely and utterly from his mind. The best thing to ever happen to him, and also the worst. So what is happening in our memory as we move forward? What can we learn from Foon and from the beautiful stories and the films that now, the science fiction films, starting to feel like their reality? What we can see is a perfect memory, meaning a memory that remembers everything, is the end of understanding. The idea that we don't have a beat, we can't take a breath. It's just content, 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 reminder, reminder, reminder. So what I can tell you, if there's something, and I had to write it on my hand so I didn't forget, default mode moving forward. And the default mode for us in terms of our brain and the network that this is built into is actually what we do when we're daydreaming. Default mode network is the bit where we relax. It's the bit where we're bored. We don't do that so much anymore. We fill it with content and machines and devices. So what's happening to us in the default mode? Well, mainly it's happening when we're sleeping. Our subconscious is working through the bits. What do we carry from today and bring forward? What do we choose to let go? Imagine every single day and you remembered every single detail like Foon. Your brain would be overloaded. The other thing that happens in this default mode network is we turn knowledge into learning and learning into knowledge. We start to build upon it. We start to build upon experiences into identity. We start to deepen our relationship with ourselves. We ask those beautiful existential questions. Who am I? Who am I now? Who was I? Where did I come from? And these only happen in the gap between this space, this neural network that is the downtime for us. So it also gives us creativity. It also gives us time to understand who we are. It's a kind of a marination of the day's experiences. And as we build upon a life, we bring with us some experiences and we let others go. We learn from them, we change and we morph. So this daydreaming, this mode is really, really fundamental, and we're losing the space for it. So what that means is fundamental to us as human beings, because the doing nothing is where we make meaning. But how much doing nothing are we doing? The Italians have a beautiful word, and it's about the idea, a beautiful phrase, and it's about the idea, the art of doing nothing. We have to think about that, because we have a guilt. We wear busyness as a badge of honor when we switch off. At the moment, we're digitally detoxing. We maybe do it on a Sunday, or maybe we put our phones down. But what's actually happened in our brains, according to neuroscientists, is our brains are rewiring themselves to the technology, meaning, we can see it from when your phone is put down and your phone is lost. Your brain suddenly goes into panic, fight or flight mode. Why? It's just a phone. Is it about the contacts? No, it's something so much more. It's the fact that we don't feel safe without our device. So this fight or flight that we had, that we grew in evolutionary terms to keep us safe, is now associated with a technological device. So this is why we always touch it, and we think about it, and we touch it, and we put it up, and we put it down, and we look at it. And even when we're watching television or a movie, we're still picking it up. We're in terrible habits. In this generation, we've got ourselves into a bit of a funk with this. What it's doing each time is reinforcing itself and its importance to us. And again, that's in just one generation. But there is hope. The hope is Gen Z. Gen Z are turning around and they are making massive changes. They're using a burner phone, and Nokia must be delighted to see that come back, and the rise of Snake and all of those other things. They call it a dumb phone versus a smartphone. They're being discerning, some of them, about when they use it. They're going analog. There's something called an analog bag where they would have a camera and a book, but an old-fashioned camera with a film and a paper and a pen, and they're journaling, and they're choosing to opt out. And they're doing this IRL, in real life stuff. They want to meet in person. They want run clubs and connection and social connection. This is really, really positive for us. But also it means that they're getting that downtime. They're getting that neural mode that they need to make sense of the world, especially at a time when things are overstimulated and we are overburdened. And there's geopolitical unrest and there's climate anxiety. There's all the other things that they have inherited from all the generations gone by. So as we move forward, what can we learn from other cultures that we could do a little bit better? I've been very lucky to spend a bit of time in Japan. And in Japan, they have a couple of really beautiful phrases. And I'm very, very lucky to be there at cherry blossom time one year. And as you stand underneath the cherry blossoms and you just watch them in the wind, sprinkling down, you just feel this state of extreme beauty. It's exquisite. But is the beauty in the cherry blossoms itself or in the falling? Well, for the Japanese, it's in the falling. And they have a beautiful phrase, mono no aware. And what this means is the beauty of the impermanence. This too shall pass. We have it in so many of the Eastern religions. This idea that actually we spend our time here better, knowing our own mortality. I have a tattoo here, amor fati, which means lean into your fate. It's Nietzsche. The other side of that, I didn't want to be symmetrical, is memento mori. Remember that you will die. It's so important that we go back to the philosophers for guidance at this time, this technological time. Because if we don't remember that this is impermanent, that we too are impermanent, that we will pass, how much of our life can we really enjoy? The other phrase that I love from the Japanese is this idea of wabi-sabi, sort of when something breaks, something that's special, they'll recreate it in the pieces with a golden glue, and it actually becomes more important. It's called the art of kintsugi, and it's the art of the imperfect. So if we take these two things, impermanence and imperfection, isn't that the human condition? So why are we trying to be more like machines? Well, we're not, but we are leaning into being machine-like, and this is what concerns me as an anthropologist working in innovation and technology, because I'm not entirely sure this is good for us. I think that forgetting and having space and putting things down and being imperfect is the true human connection. But we've been here before, this idea of change, and we've always adapted to it. In fact, the only reason we're probably still here as human beings is the fact that we can adapt to resilience, to change, to uncertainty. And the only truth is change. So as we move forward, and we've gone from oral histories into the written feudal, the word is king and lord, and the written word became everything, we are now in a phase of a cognitive revolution. AI is changing not the way we think, but knowledge is becoming abundant, not scarce. It's everywhere. It's at the drop of a hat. You can get knowledge just like that. We no longer maybe have the necessary need for an expert in the room. But we do. Because just because AI can give us content, it can't give us judgment. It can't give us gut feeling. It can't make a call on something it's not entirely sure why. It can fake empathy. In fact, it is literally the definition of a sociopath. My GPT is like, Lolly, you're amazing. I'm like, I know, and all my questions are so good. And you're all getting that same feedback. So we're all walking around a little bit buoyant from it. It's designed to make us feel good. But it's not real. It's not a true connection. It's never going to love us. It's never going to care for us. And yet we are all in parasocial relationships with our AI if we're involved with them. 80% of us using it for therapy. Over-trusted friends. We need to be mindful. We need to be careful. And I think what's really important is we talk about what we've forgotten that we're grateful that we forgot, if you get with me. What I mean is there's things I've let go. That me at the end of the table 10 years ago, I look at her now in my mind with kind of a sadness, a kindness, a sadness for what she went through. But I don't feel it. It's past. I've let those things go. I've put those things down. I'm different now. I'm like more content. I know myself more. And we can see that all the good things that build our character in life are from this roller coaster, the peaks and the troughs, the peaks of enlightenment, the troughs of disillusionment, and the grit and the courage to keep on going. That's friction. AI gives us no friction, makes us frictionless. Everything's just so easy, but it's not good for us. If we're to truly build this human future, we need to think about what our memories are for. We need to think that if we remembered everything, we would just be more like machines. We're not. We're curators of our own future. We choose ourselves what to put down, what to keep, the best of us. We remember with sadness and beauty the impermanence of life. I have a friend that designed something called a mortality calculator, which sounds very negative. But actually, if you put your birth date in it, it shows you the likelihood of how many summers you have left. I have 24, allegedly, and I intend to use each and every one of them in the best possible way. But it was my birthday this week, and I also found out I have 309 full moons left, and I intend to also see them all and dance underneath them. Because if we know that life is impermanent and that we're not here forever, we have to remember that AI wants to remember everything. But as humans, we need to learn to forget. And thank you.